Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I have that it's 7 o'clock on the dot, so I'd like to call to order the 2066 meeting of the City of College Place City Council. Will the clerk please take roll call?
Yes. Councilmember Bobbitt.
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland.
Present.
Councilmember Peterson.
Present.
Councilmember Selby.
Present.
Councilmember Sherman.
Present.
Councilmember Trope.
Present.
Councilmember Nyhagen has requested to be excused tonight. We also have Mayor Hernandez, City Attorney Colwell, City Administrator Rizzatello, Finance Director Carlton. I believe, yes, I saw him. Public Works Director Paul Hartwig. You'll see that it is the Hartwig show tonight. Engineering Tech Spencer. I forgot to ask you, Spencer, how to pronounce your last name. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. It's Murley.
Murley. That's what I would have done close to that. Chief Tamaris. Community Development Director John Rickard. HR Manager Sean Doring. Deputy Clerk Holm, and myself.
Great, thank you. We have a quorum.
We do have a quorum.
Great, and we also have a full house. So moving on, will you all please join in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. And Councilmember Bobbitt will lead our meeting with a few words to get us going.
Okay, shall we bow our heads, please? Our dear Father in heaven, we pause now at the beginning of our council meeting tonight to simply thank you for this opportunity to be together, to meet, to do the business of our fine city of College Place. We ask for your blessing on this time. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Bobbitt. Okay, it is time for public comment. Let's see. Lisa, did we have anybody request to speak?
We did not.
Okay, then we're going to move on to the consent agenda consisting of, there's a long list. Agenda for today, January 12, 2021. Council minutes from December 8th, 2020. Council minutes from January 5th, 2021 workshop. Surplus of vehicles, purchases of pickups for public works, power service and easements for gun range, CDBG general purpose grant for drywall contract, CDBG general purpose grant for micro enterprise contract, the 2021 salary ordinance, the modification of the EdTech code, the check register and financials for November 2020, and excuse the absence of Councilmember Nyhagen. Are there any items that the council would like to have removed from the consent agenda at this time? Okay, then do we have a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda. Councilmember Trope.
I'll second. This is Heather.
Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the vote's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Okay, moving on, let's see. Presentations. So Mike is going to discuss Governor Inslee's Healthy Washington Plan.
Hey, thanks. So I wanted to give you all a presentation on what this thing is, because it came out very suddenly, and it actually replaces that Safe Start program that we were all in for quite a few months. And as far as how it aggregates who reopens when and how, it has quite a few differences to it. And we have been under this new plan since yesterday. Originally, there was supposed to be a call with the governor's office with all the city managers and mayors, but then they canceled it. And they did reschedule it later in the week. And then there's also some regional meetings on Zoom we're trying to get going. So next slide.
It's not cooperating.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so I just want to give a little history on where we've been at with all of this. So May 31st is when the state was under the Safe Start program. That program allowed a little bit more of like a localized control because you moved up on a county by county basis. So you were able to coordinate, we all did with the unified command structure. And because of how well the agencies collaborated with each other, we were able to move to the phase 2 status to do a limited reopening of things in July. Now in November, the governor announced statewide restrictions for 4 weeks. So basically pared it back down very similar to the phase 1 level and took away the indoor dining, but outdoor dining was still allowed. This pairing of the restrictions continued to January 11th. January 5th is when the governor announced that this new plan was replacing Safe Start. Next slide. This gets into key differences. I attached a link to a YouTube presentation for that the governor did for you all to watch if you so choose. The key difference here is that this plan is a lot more regional as opposed to county by county. The old plan is probably a little more of a pain on the state side to administer it. But I would say on the localized side, this is a bit of a challenge, and you'll see why, because the data now is no longer just depending upon one county. So you have to meet various thresholds I'll get into later, and now it's based on region. And these regions are derived from essentially the EMS regions that the state's divided between. So in our case, we're in South Central, so we're aggregated now with Columbia, Franklin, Benton, Yakima, and then Kittitas County up by Ellensburg. Next slide. Another difference is, unlike Safe Start, this plan has 2 phases. I'll get into the depth of what each of the phases are. And it says that later on they could add additional phases, but it's at the state's discretion. As you can see, the state's broken up into 8 regions now. And then this one has a move where you can basically go up or down by week. So they did a dashboard, and every Friday they're going to release the new data. And then by the following Monday is when basically the phasing would like take effect. And it's based on 4 criteria. So decrease in trend in 2-week rate of COVID cases per 100,000 population. And the decrease has to be over like 10%. Also decrease in trend in 2-week rate of new COVID-19 hospital admission rates per 100,000 population, decrease over 10%. ICU occupancy and that's total COVID-19 and non-COVID-19 of less than 90%, and then COVID test positive rate of under 10%. And to move from phase 1 to phase 2, the regions must meet all 4 metrics, and all that data is aggregated between all of the counties. Next slide. Okay. To remain in that phase 2, once we would get there, you need to meet at least 3 of those metrics that I went over. Regions that fail meet the 2 or more of the metrics, they can be moved back to that phase 1. Right now, in essence, we're in phase 1, and I'll go over what the activities are between the various phases. Metrics are updated on this risk assessment dashboard Department of Health has every Friday, and then essentially the move backward or forward is the following Monday. Next slide. This is basically a chart of activities in the various phases. Some of them, as far as like how they expect people, I would say, to watch over that. I mean, it's more so guidance as far as thinking government would control some of that. That's not really rational. Social and at-home gathering size indoor for phase 1's prohibited, but in phase 2, it's a max of 5 people. Social gathering for outdoor is a max of 10 people from your household and limited to household, but then in phase 2, it goes up to 15 people. Worship services is at 25% capacity in both phases. For retail stores, likewise, same thing. Professional services, the remote work is strongly encouraged. Otherwise, it's the 25% capacity. Same for the personal services. Really, the differences tend to deal with eating and drinking establishments, and then like activities, both fitness and then entertainment. So with the eating and drinking establishments for phase 1, the indoor dining is still prohibited, but the outdoor dining is allowed. And it's 11 p.m. close with 6 per table, limit 2 households. At phase 2, that allows the indoor dining at that juncture. Weddings and funerals, as you can see, in phase 1, it's allowed to no more than 30 people for the indoor receptions. And then going into phase 2, it opens up to more people, but it says that like dancing is prohibited. Indoor recreation fitness establishments, so they can reopen, but it's based on appointment based for like a 45-minute session. And then in phase 2, it's at 25% capacity. Outdoor sports, they are allowed. It's just following the previous guidance. And then once you get to phase 2, a maximum of up to 200 spectators are allowed. For entertainment establishments, they are allowed again, except basically general admissions prohibited in phase 1. It ends up being no more than 6 people permitted, but then phase 2, it would go up at 25% capacity. For outdoor entertainment, ticketed in groups of 10, limit 2 households, but then phase 2, it's groups of 15, limit 2 households. Live entertainment's no longer prohibited, so that's one good thing. Next slide. As you could see, probably by the tone I had with this, there's a lot of talk amongst the city managers, the cities, chambers of commerce, basically a lot of people. There's quite a few problems with this because there was no input sought from the cities or business sectors or anyone. In fact, even many health departments weren't able to chime in on this. So everyone's just a little puzzled at essentially trying to get this going. With the county by county opening, we had the unified command. We were able to basically chart our own destiny. As you all saw by last summer, we were able to attain phase 2. This is harder now because these counties, as far as what they've done during COVID, it varies a little bit, and now everyone's just thrown into this. So we'll see how it works when we have the first Zoom meeting with all the health districts and everyone. But it's going to be unwieldy, even limiting it to the city managers, mayors, and then health district officials. I saw the list Kennewick sent out. I mean, it's over 30 people, so it's going to be interesting. Also, our county, in the summer, historically, we had like the lowercase counts. And if you look at the counties that stayed in phase 1 and then that modified 1.5, it was Benton, Franklin, and Yakima. And now we're all aggregated and they have a higher population. And actually, when you look at Yakima, a little bit less of availability of like hospital beds and things of that sort. So there is a concern about that acting as like a drag on like the ability of like Columbia and Walla Walla County to reopen sooner. So that's a deep concern that we have. But with that, that is what I have. So that is the plan that was released last week. I'll take any questions to the ability that I'm able to answer them.
Councilmember Peterson?
So Mike, that's on a 2-week span, correct?
Yeah, a lot of the data points are on like a 2-week span, but they will consider essentially moving counties up or back a phase like every week. But a lot the data points are like on a 2-week period.
You know, yeah, that'd be a challenge for some businesses to whiplash back and forth if that were to happen, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments for Mike? Councilmember Cleveland?
I don't suppose there is much of a clear avenue to give for cities to give input on this to maybe suggest changes.
We have tried because the governor's office does have representation and the county unified command that meets every Monday and Thursday morning. And pretty much the response was, well, we know that this stinks, but it is what it is, work within it. But I definitely don't feel it's appropriate because a lot of these counties all had different ways of working with it. So to be frank, at the moment, it's a cluster right now. Beyond that, I know the city managers group is thinking of sending something, working on a letter. I know the Valley Chamber is looking at that as well, as is the county and others. But yeah, I was a little, I would say, irritated at the general response to our concerns at the Unified Command because both cities, the county, and then the chamber, we all communicated actually last week and then this week, and it doesn't seem like they're really taking it seriously, our concerns.
That's unfortunate. Thanks.
Yeah.
I know I sent an email to the representative for our east side of the state, and the response was pretty much the same, that he's aware and that they're sorry, but they're trying to do the best they can, and at this time it's going to stay as is. All right, anybody else have something for Mike for this discussion? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you very much, Mike.
Yep.
Some important information there. Okay, we're going to move on to action items. So the first item is a DCO Road parking resolution 20-049 hold order. So just a little perspective and historical perspective, and I know you all have this still fresh in your mind, that on November 24th, 2020, the City of College Place Council passed resolution number 20-049 to prohibit parking on either side of Northeast DCO Road from the point where the road is 24 to 28 feet wide. We did this in response to some concerns of the residents who live on that street. However, the next meeting, we received some questions as to why we were doing that from the neighbors and the residents who live down on that street. They've complained about the lack of available parking since the implementation of 20-49. And so we heard these complaints recently from the citizens that live on that street. So on January 5th, 2021 workshop, the council requested that the matter be looked into by a traffic professional and or staff. In the meantime, this order will pause implementation of the parking restrictions until one of the three things are complete. So first, either the city engages and obtains a satisfactory opinion from a traffic professional to determine if traffic safety issue exists on the section of road implicated in the resolution 20049, and the said opinion is presented to the city council, or the city determines that an opinion from a traffic professional to determine if a traffic safety issue exists on the subject road section is unwarranted, or finally, 60 days has passed without further action by council regarding resolution 20-049. You all have been provided the document for resolution number 21-003. Do we have any questions or discussion items? Nothing? Okay. Do we have a motion regarding resolution 20-003?
This is Professor Selby, or Councilmember Selby, sorry. I would move that we approve resolution number 21-001, placing a hold order on resolution number 20-049, Deschio Road parking until, I'm sorry, it's covered up, until something is completed.
One of the three.
It's actually resolution 21003.
Oh, is that a 3? I'm sorry.
That answered my question.
It's so small.
Councilmember Bobbitt, second.
Okay, thank you.
I move what it says on the paper.
All right, we have a first and a second. Do we have any other comments or questions or discussion items? All right, not seeing any. Let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The motion is passed. Okay, the next item is let me make sure I'm in the right order. Okay. The Cascade Natural Gas franchise by Mr. Rizzatello.
Okay. Thank you. I went over this at the previous workshop. Cascade Natural Gas, their previous franchise that went for 20 years, actually expired last year. So was working with them to get a new one in place. Luckily, our process for doing this, once we get past questions from the franchisee, is actually relatively straightforward because we have that model franchise code within our municipal code that we've done these with the last couple of years. So a lot of that's just plug and play from the franchise code. And it's good for 10 years. We shrunk it from the 20 because that's what's in our code. And it's just good to have it that way because things change. So 20 years is too long. 10 years tends to be the standard. But yeah, a lot of this is like boilerplate from our franchise code. And Cascade Natural Gas worked with them. I thank them for working with us. They're supportive of this and just waiting for us to get passed.
Okay, thank you, Mike. We'll go through the council members for any questions and or comments. And we will begin with Councilmember Bobbitt.
Yes, I was looking at the agenda. It's kind of confusing. Ordinance 21-003. we're talking about now, and then the last one was a resolution 21-003.
Good catch.
At the very beginning of the year, we have that happen. Shortly, that won't be the case because resolutions happen much more frequently than ordinances.
Yeah, it kind of just caught me like, okay. Anyway, that was the one question, but I'd like to make a motion if there's no other questions.
Okay, let me just quickly run through the other council members. Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
I'll just say thanks, Mike, to you and your staff for developing this template that has really enhanced this process. Really appreciate the foresight on that and the consideration. Thank you.
Councilmember Selby,
I would like to say here on what Councilmember Peterson just said, but other than that, I have no comments or questions.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
and Councilmember Trope.
No question.
Okay, great. Councilmember Bobbitt, you'd like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 21-003, granting a non-exclusive 10-year franchise to Cascade Natural Gas Corporation.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Councilmember Trope, second.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. Thank you, Mike. All right, so next item, we're going to move into a section here where Mr. Hartwig gets to do some presentations for us. So we're going to discuss first the contract award for the Southwest Sewer and Lift Station project.
Thank you, Mayor. We finally were able to go out to bid on our Southwest Sewer project. Late November, we opened bids on December 29th at the office of JUB. We had a pre-construct meeting about 2 weeks prior. We had about 4 or 5 contractors at the pre-bid meeting. As it went along, there was 2 concerns that was brought up in by different contractors. One was the tight time frames that were required, which I did relax a couple of those, but we believe that the biggest concern was the groundwater. They were required to put a price in the contract for handling the groundwater, and there would be no additional monies granted. And that was a really big concern because there will be, and there is groundwater in the area. So on December 29th, when we had the bid opening, only one bidder submitted a bid, and that was Apollo Inc. You have the in the packet the letter of recommendation from JUB to award bid to Apollo Inc. And then you also have the bid tabs that go along with their bid and the engineer's estimate. You'll notice that the engineer's estimate was about $150,000 higher, lower than the low bid, but but we felt that that the bid was in the range. So also in there, in the packet, just for your information, we are required to have the city attorney sign documents saying that we do have the right-of-way in possession prior to award of the contract. So you'll see the 2 right-of-way certificates, and then another document that we had to have for the attorney to sign. So all those are in the packet just for information. So once you approve awarding the contract, then we've got to gather a lot of documents together, put them together, and I think there's about 15 documents that we have to get together and provide along with the contract to rural development or USDA so they can review all that and make sure we got all the documents necessary before they sign. I'd entertain any questions.
Okay, we do have a question or the hand raised by Attorney Colwell.
Yes, I just wanted to let the council know and the mayor know that I attempted to review the proposed agreement for this, and it's very, very long. But I dug down into the sections that would be concerning from a legal standpoint, risk standpoint, and I do have some concern about the indemnification and hold harmless language. And it limits the requirement for the contractor to indemnify and hold harmless the city for only negligent acts on behalf of the contractor. And it's my position that the contractor should indemnify and hold the city harmless for any acts or inactions on their part. So for example, if a mistake was made or someone was being careless and a third party was harmed, the contractor would not be required to indemnify or hold the city harmless. We require them to have insurance and bonding for this type of thing. So I don't see that as something that they will argue with, but I would request that if there's any approval for the mayor to sign that it be with the caveat that we work on that indemnification language. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Colwell. Okay, let's go through council members for questions or comments, beginning with Councilmember Bobbitt.
Can you come back to me? I'm still reviewing.
Okay, Councilmember Cleveland.
I guess I'm wondering at this point, when a motion is made, do we modify the motion to include a modification of this contract to better comply with our city attorney's concerns, or how would does that modify the motion at all?
I would suggest that you make that motion that the city attorney has to agree with the language in the contract, and leave it at that.
Okay. Other than that, the only thing I have to say is I'm really excited for this project, and thank you all for putting such hard work into it. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, Paul, does this have we're looking at 8 million there, and I saw was their bid at 7.3 or something like that? Does this 8 contain the 10% contingency, or?
Yes,
Okay.
It does. Yes.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
Councilmember Selby.
No comments or questions.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions, but thanks for catching that, Ree. That's pretty important.
And Councilmember Trope.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if you have any additional questions or comments that you think of, Councilmember Bobbitt, actually.
No, my question was answered.
Okay, great. All right. So with all that in consideration, is there a motion? Councilmember Cleveland.
I will motion to authorize the mayor to execute contract with Apollo Inc. for construction of the Southwest Sewer Lift Station number 7 in an amount not to exceed $8 million, and with the approval of the city attorney on the language included on the contract referencing the concerns should be expressed. Hopefully that covers the motion as intended. I'm happy to amend it if there are any concerns.
Is there a
Councilmember Selby, second.
great? We have a first and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The motion is passed. Okay, we're going to continue on with Mr. Hartwig regarding the Destito Storm Project Award.
Yeah, we went out to, thank you again, Mayor. We went out to bid for the Destito Storm. Destito is the cul-de-sac off of B Street. It has a flooding problem when we get high impact rains. And so we went out and you authorized the design engineering. We did do the design engineering. We came back after doing test pits and found that it had an infiltration rate that was too high, which forced us into the treatment. That's what drove the cost of this project up. And so we had to put in this special treatment facility to handle the stormwater before it was allowed to go back into the gravels. What you have here is a letter of recommendation from Anderson Perry and the bid tab sheets. So I would just, this neighborhood has been putting up with this flooding for several years. And so it really came to a head this last spring when we had the heavy rains, and it almost got into the basement of the house at the end of the cul-de-sac. Now that we had passed the stormwater utility, we were able to generate funds through rates, and able to do this project. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hartwig. So let's go through council members for questions or comments. Councilmember Bobbitt.
No questions.
Okay. Councilmember Cleveland.
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson.
Questions?
Councilmember Selby.
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
And Councilmember Trope. No questions? Okay, great, thank you. Okay.
No questions. I'm sorry, I was muted.
That's okay. So if you think of any other questions or comments as we move along, please raise your hand. But otherwise, do we have a motion? Councilmember Sherman.
I will make a motion to award the Stedo Storm Project contract to Nelson Construction Corp. For an amount not to exceed $271,357.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Peterson.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The motion is passed. All right, let's take a look. Okay, we're going to move on to the construction engineering with Anderson Perry for the Stedo Storm Project.
Yeah, so that's just for them to administer all the construction and inspection for this project. This is the project we talked about, so I don't think I have much to add to this. It's just amending the original design contract to add for construction engineering. It would be for an amount not to exceed $35,000.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Councilmember Bobbitt?
No questions.
Councilmember Cleveland?
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson?
No questions?
Councilmember Selby?
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions.
And Councilmember Trope? Okay, so moving on, is there a motion? Do we have a motion regarding the construction engineering with Anderson Perry? Okay, Councilmember Trope.
I'd like the motion to approve Amendment 1 for construction engineering for the Stedo Stormwater Project for an amount not to exceed $35,000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second Councilmember Cleveland.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. Okay, next is the purchase of sewer lift station pumps.
Thank you again, Mayor. This is part of the Southwest Sewer Project. We decided to pull the purchase of the pumps out of the bidding and go sole source. So that's why this is a separate item. The city is looking to purchase 3 Flight, their specific brand pump. We do have some in our system already. They've been a very good pump for us, and we've been trying to standardize on a pump so that we're familiar with the pumps that we work on and operate. A lot of the agencies in Walla Walla and Tri-Cities are standardizing on these pumps. They're very good pumps and they do a good job. And it's really critical to be able to share knowledge and experience when working on these things. So you have the proposal from Whitney Equipment on the pumps. And so we're bringing that. We have filled out a sole source agreement. Brian can talk more about it if you need to help us with the auditing part. But we would recommend that you allow the city to purchase 3 of those pumps for the new lift station. I'd entertain any questions.
Councilmember Bobbitt?
No questions.
Councilmember Cleveland?
Is there any risk that these pumps might be, I guess, replaced by an updated model, in which case we kind of partially tried to unify but no longer have that option?
This is a pretty standard pump. I don't anticipate they're going to change this a whole lot. But a lot of those parts will be interchangeable. The way to operate on the slide and bowl assemblies should be pretty standard.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Peterson?
Are we using all 3 of these pumps, or is one a spare?
One would be a spare.
Okay.
You don't want to be stuck with that major flow without that spare. Yeah.
And when you say common with other cities, I guess, are the exact replicas? In other words, is there horse trading that would happen in an emergency, or how does that go?
Well, I don't know about that, but there's possibilities of that. If we had, for some unforeseen reason, 2 pumps go down, we might be able to get another similar pump that would slide down that rail and work there. But it's more for sharing of information and that type of stuff, and working in partnership with other agencies that use these pumps.
Thanks, Paul.
Councilmember Selby?
No questions. I just want to say I think this is a really great idea, and I especially like having one in reserve and working with other people so that we can get a community of knowledge going.
Thank you. Councilmember Sherman?
No questions.
Councilmember Choate?
Quick question, Paul. The 3rd pump that's the spare, is that an installed spare, or would you have to send somebody out to, rip out one and put a new one in?
Yes, that's what would happen. It also could be ultimately the plan would be if the growth happens, the 3rd rail would go down. This one would end up going down there, and we'd end up buying another one. But right now it'll just be sitting at the station.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please use the button to raise your hand if you have any additional questions or comments. Okay. Is there a motion?
Raise my hand.
Councilmember Peterson?
Move to approve purchase of 3 lift station pumps from Whitney Equipment for lift station number 7, the Southwest Sewer Project, for an amount not to exceed $120,000.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Great, we have a second. Any additional discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the vote is unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Next item is 5.07 regarding the re-roof of the barn at the wastewater treatment plant.
You again. We have an old barn. I mean, an old barn out at the wastewater treatment plant. And the metal that's on there right now, aluminum, is just blowing off, and we got gaps in it. It's a barn. It's old. It's something worth protecting, I think. We use it for storage of equipment and so forth. So we got a contract to roof half of it, and it came in at $14,000. And so we asked if to do the whole roof, it would just be double, and they said yes. We'd like to do whatever we can to protect that barn and protect the stuff that we store within it. And so we would like to get this project, at least the roof part, done. We did go out. We got 3 bids. Berenson, Elsom, and Palmer Roofing, and the Berenson was the low bid. So I'd entertain any questions.
Councilmember Bobbitt.
About how many square feet is the roof area?
Oh, it is.
Is this a pretty large barn?
Oh my, yes, it's a large barn. 16. You know, they didn't put it on there. But you've got. I really can't answer you that right now, but it's probably 30 feet by about 40 or 50 feet.
So $1,500 a square foot.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily good on eyeing it, but it had 3 sections of aluminum metal on tall, and then the width is probably a little bit more than that.
Yeah. Now, are there a lot of? I mean, is it a simple plain roof, or are there a lot of little things they got to work around, like vents and skylights or whatever? I don't know.
There's a cupola at the very top. That's the only thing that's in the way.
So it's a pretty simple, basic roof then.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It seems kind of high, but I'm not sure. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Cleveland.
Yeah, I was curious if there's any other maintenance that needs to be done on it, because it sounds like it's an asset worth protecting, like you said. You get some use out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, eventually we'll need to re-side it as well. But the first key part is to get the roof taken care of.
Okay. Could we also see a picture of it when it's done at a council meeting or email?
Yes, yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Peterson.
No questions.
Councilmember Selby.
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
Councilmember Trope.
No questions.
Great. Please use the buttons to raise your hand if you have any additional comments or questions.
Oh, one thing to add, I traced the footprint of it in GIS. It says 3,048 square feet. The footprint of the barn, so.
Okay, Councilmember Cleveland and then Councilmember Bobbitt.
I'd like to motion to approve contract with Berenson Roofing for an amount not to exceed $32,000.
Had another question.
Okay, Councilmember Bobbitt.
I see it says a 5-year warranty. I thought some of our roofs were like 25 years, but this is a metal roof. Wouldn't that have a longer warranty?
It's not the heavy duty roof. it's but it's adequate on this roof, and we'll get more life than that. But it's a good roof. It's not that what do you call it? We'd be paying a lot more for that. I keep forgetting the name of it. No, not for asphalt, but the metal. You can do a standing seam metal roof that would be a lot more money.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you think it would be adequate then for long term?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the table by Councilmember Cleveland. Is there a second?
Second, Council.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is passed. Okay, continuing on our way with Mr. Hartwig, the next item is the design of water project project at 12th Street and Sky Avenue.
You probably think I like spending money. But anyway, one of the goals for the water system is to get rid of all the steel pipe, the old thin wall steel pipe. One of the areas on the South Hill is the alley between 12th and Mountain View and between Broadway and Sky. That's about 1,400 feet of 6-inch steel. It's in the alley. What we would like to do is put the new main down Mountain View and bring these services out from the alley. The alley's 20 feet. There's not much room to work on it. And if we had to do something with the sewer's in that alley too, and it's about 18 feet deep. So there's really no room to work, and there's gas in there as well. So it's much easier if we can get it out into the streets and bring the meters and work the meters around and have them out on the street side rather than in the alley. Then they get covered up by weeds and all that type of stuff and debris. So this is to have JUB design this project so that it would be ready to go to bid when we had the money and wanted to schedule it in.
Great, thank you. Let's go through council members for questions or comments, and starting with Councilmember Bobbitt.
Give me a moment. Come back to me, please.
Okay, Councilmember Cleveland.
This is sounding pretty extensive. I'm curious if we have any ballpark ideas of what the project would cost. And I guess as a site follow-up, I'm curious if it would be worthwhile or if we considered putting fiber optic conduit in if we're tearing up the street for putting a water main in it.
Well, I mean, it's not good to put it in the same ditch because when we have to do water work and you have that conduit, it's difficult, makes it difficult to work. But I would probably say, because all the cable utilities are out there, if you wanted to do a fiber conduit, you'd probably want to put it in the alley near the edge where all the other cables are. Be my suggestion.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Peterson.
No questions.
Councilmember Selby.
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
Councilmember Trope.
No questions.
Okay, and we're going to loop back to Councilmember Bobbitt.
I'm trying to picture all this. I know the area. So basically, when you put in the new 8-inch ductile iron main, you would run that in the streets rather than the alley?
That's the proposal. That's what we're going to look at. And then that would be down Mountain View and then also down Sky from 12th to Scenic View.
So that would mean digging new trenches for the new water main. And would you just be abandoning the old 6-inch
Yes,
in the alleys, not bothering digging those up?
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So please use the buttons to raise your hand if you have any additional comments or questions. All right, then let's move on. Is there a motion?
This is Councilmember Selby. I move that we approve the design contract with JUB for Sky and 12th Water Project for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Okay, thank you.
Second by Councilmember Jerry.
Okay, thank you. We have a first and a second. Any other additional discussion? Right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Right, the ayes have it. The motion is passed.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hartwig. Now we're going to move to 5.09, which is a Stormwater Management Program Plan Finalization. And Mr. Murley will present that. Did I say your last name correctly?
Yes, you did. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you.
So the city received some funding by the Department of Ecology through their Clean Water Program for us to do this stormwater management plan, which is a requirement under the NPDES Phase 2 stormwater permit that the city is currently under. The big part of this report is the capital improvement plan to kind of give the city a roadmap of where to go with the projects and what those projects will look like for our budget. Those budget numbers were updated to reflect some of these higher bids that we've recently received as well. And then going forward, we are planning to use the stormwater management plan to help apply for funding through the NRCS PL 566 grant. And you have the report attached there. Do you guys have any questions?
All right, thank you. Let's move on to questions. Councilmember Bobbitt.
Come back to me, please.
Councilmember Cleveland.
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson.
Questions?
Councilmember Selby.
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
And Councilmember Trope.
No question. Thank you.
All right, we're going to loop back to Councilmember Bobbitt.
No questions, thank you.
All right. Please use the button to raise your hand if there are any additional comments or questions. All right, seeing none. Is there a motion? Councilmember Cleveland.
I will motion to approve resolution number 21-004, adopting the Stormwater Management Program Plan.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Councilmember Trope, second.
Great, thank you. Any additional discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The motion is passed. Thank you, Mr. Murley. You passed your first city council presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to section 6 as for administrative reports. And the first one we're going to have is the Dawson and City Property Exchange regarding 326 Southwest 12th Street. Mr. Rickard will present.
Good evening, Council. Lisa, do I have the ability to share screen, or are you handling that?
You should have that ability.
Okay. Hang on one second here while I get acquainted here. Okay, can you see my screen here? Okay, so, oh, you're looking at my, are you looking at my email?
No, we
No,
see,
you can see okay, good.
we see
So
it now.
this is down on Southwest 12th. It's just to the to the west of where our improvements end, where the curb and sidewalk end on the north side. There's a vacant property that was recently acquired by Brent Dawson, and he is working on a boundary line adjustment with the neighbors to the west that's owned by the Hewitts to square up his property. So the property that Brent owns is this piece right here in the middle, and then the Hewitts are just to the west. And the Hewitts property is kind of this triangular piece, and the Dawson piece was kind of a trapezoid, I guess, sort of. The city in, I think it was 1992, acquired a piece of former railroad right-of-way property. You can see that in the red area that's outlined in red. It actually goes into the center of 12th Street as well. But I have only highlighted the portion that we're dealing with in this exchange. So you can see that the red area kind of protrudes into the Dawson property and makes a portion of that property unusable by Mr. Dawson. So he has proposed that we do an exchange, which would we'd end up giving approximately 818 square feet, that's that yellow area, to Dawson in exchange for Mr. Dawson dedicating 551 square feet to the city for right-of-way purposes of 12th Street. That's the blue area. And then the Hewitts would provide the city with approximately 200 square feet of right-of-way for a portion of the exchange of land that's occurring between Dawson and Hewitt. So it's that's the kind of the greenish area. Hopefully nobody's colorblind. So it's a pretty straightforward exchange. I've talked with the city administrator about this, and I've also talked to the city attorney, Ree, about this exchange. And so if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Let's go through the council members. Councilmember Bobbitt.
You know, it's tough being the first one because I'm still processing.
All right.
Come back to me. Thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland.
Seems fairly straightforward. I guess one question I have is, have we done similar land swaps, and how have they gone?
I don't recall doing a land swap per se like this. We have gotten rid of right-of-way before. In fact, up off of DCO, there was a intersection that would have went into the Home Depot property. In that instance, we vacated half of the right-of-way to the northern property and the other half to the southern property owner. So I don't know if Paul has any experience with any of these sort of land swaps, but I think Ree mentioned in our exchange that she's in the jurisdictions that she's worked for, she's dealt with a couple of these.
Did that answer your question? Okay. All right, Councilmember Peterson.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Selby.
As I recall, we did a land swap with DNR, or DNR did a land swap and then sold us land. And there was a bunch of having to get evaluations and, you know, appraisals and stuff. Do we have to go through any of those hoops when it's such a small amount?
We're not going through any of that appraisal process in this instance because it is such a small amount. We did not purchase the land. It was deeded to the city from the county back in '92. for right-of-way purposes. At the time, we didn't realize that it actually jetted up into this piece of property, is my assumption. I guess I shouldn't say we didn't know that, but the assumption is we didn't know that. And since it is, you know, pretty close apples to apples exchange in terms of square footages, the cost of going through the appraisal process would well outweigh the benefit of dealing with it the way we are.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
All right, Councilmember Sherman
No questions.
and Councilmember Trope.
No question.
All right, please. Oh, actually, we're going to loop back to Councilmember Bobbitt.
Okay, I got my bearings, so no questions. Thank you.
All right. If you have any questions or comments, please use the button to raise your hand. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Rickard.
Thank you.
Okay, so there, regarding informational reports, there are a couple of reports in the packet for you to review. And Lisa, looks like we're up to executive session or council member, sorry, Ms. Colwell.
Lisa?
Yes. We are ready to go into executive session. At this time, all of the council members, the mayor, city attorney, HR manager Doring, John Rickard, Mr. Rizzatello, we will all go into executive session. Deputy Clerk Holm will keep this session live, and we expect to go in for 15 minutes, and Ms. Holm will announce if we need any extensions. I'm going to go ahead and leave this session now so I can open the other session. Each of those that are invited to that other session, please exit this meeting and click on that link to start that one. Carolyn.